Hey everyone, I'm Zach, and today I wanted to spend some time reflecting on The Alloy of Law, a book written by Brandon Sanderson, and one that not only surprised me, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I want to talk to you all about it today. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, and let's settle in. Spoiler warning, we will be getting into some big details about this, so if you have not read this book yet, please go read it. It is amazing and absolutely worth your time. That is your warning. From here on, we will be getting into the discussion on The Alloy of Law. So, what grabbed my attention about this book? Well, from the get-go, in the prologue, we are introduced to Wax, who's a lawman in the roughs. He just lost his wife in the prologue, and that kind of strikes a tone with me. I haven't lost my wife, thank the heavens, but I can't imagine what he would be going through. I could certainly sympathize with him, and I think from the get-go, I'm curious to see how he deals with this, how he is able to not necessarily move past it, but move on with his life. And in the beginning, it seems like his motive is to run away because he is intending on going and helping his household, which he also ran away from to the roughs to begin with. So now he ran away from his household in Elendel, and now he's running back to them to get away from the roughs. And I think he's doing this because there's too much in the roughs that remind him of his wife. In this book, there are two main characters. The main protagonist is Wax. We also have Wayne. And Wax and Wayne are longtime friends from the roughs. Wax left Wayne in the roughs to kind of oversee the town that they were more or less in charge of. While Wax is in Elendel, he's alone, or not necessarily alone, but he's not with anybody that he's familiar with for 5 months. Wayne comes and basically gives him his next call to adventure. There's a quote in the book where Wayne says, "You're meant to be helping people, mate. It's what you do." Wayne followed to not only support him, not only to bring him this urgent news and potential issue that is coming to the city, but he's his friend, and he looks up to Wax, and he knows that Wax is at his best when Wax is helping people, and just helping the people of his house, being a lord of the house, clearly is going to be different and a challenge for him, and Wax knows this, but Wayne also knows that that's probably not going to be enough for Wax. You live in the roughs for so long, you get used to the way it works there, and now he's in Elendel where things work differently, and Wax is trying his best, but the instant Wayne brings him this issue regarding people from the roughs coming and stealing from the trains, when Wax starts looking into it, he starts to see something more. But at first, he resists that call to adventure. But of course, as fate would have it, that's not so easy to just ignore. One new character that gets introduced to both Wax and Wayne, her name is Marcy. Now, Marcy is a younger woman from Elendel. She's been studying law, and she idolizes Wax. Wax is this legendary figure from the roughs. He's known as Waxilium Dawnshot. That name means a lot to the people of Elendel. A really cool thing in the Wax and Wayne books is they have these news pages, if I can find one, little trimmings that they do, and it's really cool because it kind of does highlight to you how much of a legend they are. They're posted in the news, and she's looked up everything on Wax, knows a lot about him. She's inspired by him. She idolizes him, and having the opportunity to get to meet him and to be on this adventure or this investigation with him is her dream come true. Marcy, of course, for the purposes in this story, when Wax first meets her, he notices a lot of similarities between her and his late wife, Lessie. And Wax has some level of affection there for her or interest. And it's definitely more impressioned upon him due to Wayne, who is also encouraging him to go for Marcy. In this context, he's already kind of made an agreement with essentially Marcy's sister, Steris, who ends up getting kidnapped. Therefore, Wax gets pulled into this whole adventure. But with Marcy specifically, there's a lot that they go through in this story that we'll talk about in a little bit, but these are the two big connections between Wax and Wayne and Wax and Marcy. So moments that stayed with me in this story, I think the biggest standout thing, which as I was just alluding to, is the relationship between Wax and Marcy, which actually ends up not happening. Wax pretty much rejects Marcy at the end of the book. Even though he saw a lot of Lessie in her and everything that they went through, there are two big moments that I think Wax really looks at Marcy as kind of another Lessie. The first big moment is when in the final confrontation between him and Miles, there's a moment where Marcy is captured. He can't get a good shot on the guy holding her. And he gets flashbacks to when Lessie died, when he took that shot that hit Lessie in the head. He's worried that that will happen again. He's panicking. He's being indecisive. In the final moments before Miles counts down from 3, or counts to 3, he calls to Wayne, who puts up a speed bubble, giving him a few more seconds to wrap his mind around what's happening. He's pretty much calling out to the god of that world, Harmony, begging for help, begging for assistance. And when Wax realizes it's not going to come, that it didn't come when Lessie died, he knows he needs to make a decision. Otherwise, a lack of action is going to be just as worse as him taking an action and it not ending so well. So Wax finds his resolve to make a decision and save Marcy. Unfortunately, Wiles is this pretty much immortal man and is so determined to defeat Wax and prove his point, which we'll get to in a minute. But the other kind of major point that I think Wax sees Marcy as more like Lessie is when they are stalling for time until the rest of the constables can come. And Marcy, who throughout the entire book has said her power to do a slow bubble is useless. However, she uses it in this instance to, while Wax is kind of distracting Miles with this philosophical conversation, she's using it to basically speed up the outside world while slowing down their conversation, right? So she truly is the one that ends up stopping Miles. Without her, Miles probably would have ended up killing Wax and gone on with his day. That doesn't happen because Marcy uses her powers, and she's smart, and Wax sees Lessie in her. I was more than surprised when he rejects her. I think most stories would have gone the happily ever after route with these two, but they didn't. And I'm very curious as to Wax's motivation for that. It's not just for Steris. We really don't know much about Steris. We know probably the same amount about Steris as Wax actually knows about Steris at this point in the book. There's not a love connection between them, and it still feels like he's hiding behind this lordship duties to his house, that he needs to marry Steris because if he marries Marcy, It'll create this political turmoil or more house turmoil. There'll be lots of rumors, and it won't go as well as if he were to marry Steris. That's what this story makes you feel, but I feel there's more to it than that, and I will be curious to see how this plays out in the rest of the books. That was kind of the biggest moment in this book that really took me by surprise. The rest of the story is amazing, and I want to talk about one of the quiet themes, specifically between Wax and Miles. They are both aspects of law. They are order and chaos. Wax follows along the ideal more with order, while Miles has more chaos in him. But they both represent law. They both come from the lawman background in the roughs. And they both see themselves as still being a part of the law, holding up the law. Where Miles' difference is differentiating right now is he is more harsh with the law. Wax kind of talks to Marcy and Wayne a little bit about Miles, and there's a little bit of fear in both of them. They both respect each other too. They both work together in the roughs. But Miles and Wax early on during one of their first conversations kind of have this philosophical conversation where Miles points out the never-ending cycle, and Wax knows immediately what he's talking about. And Wax begins to put himself in Miles's shoes a little bit. When you're a good detective, you are trying to think from the criminal's perspective. And great detectives do a really great job of this, and they put themselves in a place where they not only think like them, they try to anticipate what they will do next. This is a dangerous position to be in, and Wax is a little bit terrified of Miles for a number of reasons. But in this moment, he's terrified of Miles because he sees himself in Miles, and he sees how close he is. And I wonder, and I think Wax wonders, what it would take to put him in that same place. What would it be like if the roles were reversed? Now, the roles weren't reversed when Leslie died, and we don't know a whole lot about really what triggered Miles to go this route, other than Miles points out, again, that never-ending cycle. The never-ending cycle is no matter how many criminals they put away, more will come. And in some cases, you get an even worse criminal you have to deal with who does more damage before you're able to stop them. You can't anticipate all criminals, especially the ones that don't make themselves known. But that's the never-ending cycle that Miles is talking about. And that is why, to him, doing more to hurt Elendil, to prevent more worse criminals from coming, justifies his means for doing what he is doing. Miles also sees himself as, I'm doing this for good, and therefore my means are justified. This is a very dangerous combo to have in somebody where they think they are in the right. And who's to say he's not in the right? There's just a difference of opinion here between Wax and Miles, but both really come from that same background and are still trying to uphold their version of justice and law. And Wax knows he's very much like Miles. He is taking the law into his own hand. He's not a constable in the city. He doesn't have jurisdiction really to be doing anything that he's doing. But the difference right now between the two is Wax is justified in trying to stop Miles for the sake of other people, where Miles believes himself to be of some higher being above other people right now. And that is in part due to this secret organization being led by this man named Mr. Suit, and placing Miles in more of a position of power to do more than he could have before. And Miles is taking that, in Wax's opinion, too far. It's two different sides of the same coin. They're both going for what they deem to be their version of justice. So what made this story so memorable? It's not simply good versus evil. I really enjoy stories where you're looking at that moral compass and you're looking at what's morally good versus what people would consider morally wrong. Again, Miles and Wax really respected each other. There were many times where Miles didn't just straight up shoot Wax in the back. He would give him fair warning. He would reveal himself to Wax because he respected him. There was still a level of integrity in Miles, but him harming or putting people in harm's way, trying to inflict pain upon the people of Elendale, that's where you could say this is morally wrong. And Wax taking law into his own hands and being the one to stop him probably expedited the situation versus waiting for the constables to do it. But again, it's not a black and white story, right? And I think those are the kind of stories that are more interesting. And again, where the author could have gone with he marries Marcy happily ever after, he doesn't. There's more going on to these characters. Their paths that they're taking are not only not known directly to them, they're discovering their own paths, but as readers, we're learning more about them, and there's a lot more to be told in this story, so I do look forward to what comes next. Now, another reason why I enjoyed this story so much is Wax and Wayne, particularly Wayne. Wayne is an amazing character. He's very funny. He's very much the comedy relief aspect of this story, but there's more going on to him than just that. Wayne is really good at putting on new hats to almost don these new personas, but by doing so, he's not just doing it to be in the right place at the right time to get the information that they need and go on to the next thing. I think there's a level of him where when he does it, he's getting to know the people that he's trying to imitate or the people that he's trying to interact with. An interesting observation between Wax and Wayne is Wax is pretty gung-ho. He's very restrained in the beginning, but the instant somebody takes their first shot and kills somebody, he's very quick to, these are all my enemies. They need to be either disabled or put down, and he's not hesitant to kill somebody. Wayne, however, will not pick up a gun, and there's more to it than he just is not wanting to pick up a gun. He's a little bit afraid of guns, but primarily, he doesn't use a gun because he doesn't want to kill anybody. Any of you are familiar with Brandon's previous works, the first era of Mistborn. There's destruction versus preservation. Wax more embodies destruction right now. He doesn't go and is trying to destroy everything, but he's not hesitant to kill somebody when the need is necessitated. Wayne, on the other hand, is more of the preservation style. He will go above and beyond and try not to kill anybody, to try to save people. His powers really align with that too. He can't heal other people, but he is self-healing. He has speed bubbles, which allow him to buy a lot of time to get people out of bad situations. Him and Wax work really well together. Their friendship clearly stems beyond their time in the roughs, so much so that Wayne follows him to Elendale to support him, even though Wayne probably doesn't want to be in Elendale, but he's there to support Wax, and the two of them work together really well. You can tell there's a lot of history. They've worked together before. This isn't their first adventure and investigation, and isn't their first time taking on criminals like Miles, who is pretty much this unstoppable immortal. Wayne's a good friend, and this really resonated with me because I have a really good friend in my life who I know will always be there when I need him to be, and it's good to have those connections, and I think this story does a really great job representing that. Wax and Wayne are amazing, and Wayne currently is my favorite character probably. As I think about this story as a whole, I do wonder, going back to that beginning conversation between Miles and Wax, what it would take for Wax to be in that position, for his role to be reversed with Miles. I wonder what will push him to the edge. I wonder if we'll see that. He's already taken on a lot, and I don't know that he's fully overcome his grief with Lessie. But I guess we'll just have to see. And I wonder is the difference between him and Miles, not just solely in their beliefs, because I believe they have the same beliefs, and that Wax could be driven to the same level of justice that Miles was at with the right set of circumstances. But I believe the difference between the two stems from their connections. Wax has Wayne, who is there to support him, to pull him back when he is on that edge, to remind him that he's here to help people. There is also some level of favoritism with Wax from the god of this world, Harmony. There's some conversations that take place between the two and some level of him helping Wax. Should that continue, I don't think we would be so concerned about Wax being at that same edge. But it is interesting to think about how close or how similar the two characters really are to each other. Those were my thoughts on The Alloy of Law. If you've read it, I'd love to know what your thoughts on it are. And if anything that I said today resonates with you, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I'll have a fresh cup of coffee waiting for you and a new story to share.